Hi there, it's Paulie here with Mr. Snoots. So, we play mini game, and more often than not, Little Bastard wins. But one of my favourite board games has been around for a while, but there's like a new version of it out, and I love it. It's Hannibal and Hamilcar. Now, box game, board game. This is a two-player game of the Punic Wars, Carthage versus Rome. Largely in the 3rd century BC. You know it. Hannibal on the Alps, Scipio Africanus, and essentially the last hurrah of the Roman Republic before it gets corrupted from within by oligarchs and turned into a nightmarish dictatorship. Where have I seen that happening lately? Anyway, this game is good. I really like it. Looks a bit daunting because of the size of it, but it's actually pretty simple in its way. So, big old rule book in here, which explains it all out. But it also comes with a playbook, which is essentially a series of examples, short examples of play and little short scenarios to play to learn the game if you want to. So it'll just be, here's this little thing that happens in the toe of Italy, let's just do this. It's just 3 or 4 turns, so you can get a taste of the game. That's a lovely idea. Scenario book. So there are different wars in this, 1st, 2nd and 3rd Punic Wars. Each of these is different, has different setups, has different conditions, different cards, and so forth. They are each different phases of this multi-generational war, or set of wars against these two Western Mediterranean powers. We also get like some pretty simple cheat sheets, which have charts and tables that you need. I'll show you the map later, but this is in essence the map. As you can see, it's the Western Med. Sorry, my camera here reverses everything. But Spain, Italy, this is the Tunisian, Algerian end of Africa, Sicily, Corsica, Sardinia, etc. And of course, the Alps and Gaul, which I find very galling. These are divided into provinces, and it is also divided into individual locations, which are just linked with lines. You move from one location to other locations linked by the lines. That is how you do it. There are different card decks. There are land and sea battle card decks, and there are just the general draw deck. These are used for multiple things. You also get, they also give you some dice because they're not mean. They give you a whole bunch of bags to put things in, like counters and dice. You also get these very strange, these miniatures here, which are done as like little, almost like little household god statues. These are not pieces that you move in the game as armies. These are things that show who has political control of a province. So if Sicily is now under Roman domination, you put one of those Roman statuettes on it. Check, it's Roman territory. The game is generally won if one side or the other takes the other's capital, or the scenario will tell you if someone starts getting more provinces under their direct political control than others. Many of these provinces are neutral at the start. There are also some areas that have tribes in them, like Gaul and Spain, and up in the north of Italy. These tend to be neutral and or hostile, and you have to try and get them onto your side. They basically never come onto the Roman side, but the Carthaginians can kind of try and woo them. The Carthaginian army was pretty famously made up of very few Carthaginians. The actual city citizens almost never served outside of the African territories, but they did send out Libyan infantry, and they did send out Numidian light cavalry, pretty famously, and they also sent out, they hired an awful lot of Spanish mercenaries, they hired an awful lot of Gallic mercenaries, and most famously the elephants, which do feature in the game pretty strongly. So the board itself, as you can see, like I said, here's the toe of Italy. You can see it is made from these locations that are linked. Some of these have special symbols on them because those are, some of them, like that one there, the shield means it's the seat of a tribe. I think down there, I think that's the Brutes. So that's a bunch of Brutes down there, the Bruti. Gauls and so on and others. Other things that you have marked on them is some, like here in Sicily, you'll see are marked as ports, and some are also marked as being walled cities. Walled cities are a pain in the ass. So you have just counters, which are combat units, CUs. You have other markers which are used for political control of areas, and you have these cards. You also have characters. The Romans, because they didn't want power to be concentrated too much in any one person's hands, they had bad experiences with kings, tyrants, and dictators. So they had they were a republic, and each year the republic would vote 2 generals. Those are the consuls. They are voted from the senatorial class. And they can be they are changed each year. So those are 2 generals that are sent out to do stuff. Armies that have generals can move. Now the Romans also had a thing that if a guy's out in the field and he's doing okay, they will often recall those people and replace them at the end of their tenure. And so the old consul gets some, hi, your year's over, thank you very much, golden handshake, here, go and enjoy the Olive Garden, here's some vouchers. And the new proconsul will take over, the new consul will take over. But if he's doing okay and they want him out there, the Senate can make him a proconsul, which means he keeps his command, he's out there, but consuls outrank him. They have the higher rank. And likewise, the Carthaginians have a limited number of characters that they can have in play. When it is your start of a turn, you have a number of these strategy cards, which are dealt out now. Strategy card. You can see there's a structure to that. There are numbers and there are events. You can either take it as a number or an event. Now, when you want to move, you have a hand of these cards. You get several of these cards at the start of each turn. You can move a unit, and to move a unit, you have to play a card that has a value up in the corner equal to or less than the tactical skill of the general. So obviously, if you've got someone who is really smegging bad, they've got a tactical value of like 1, and you've got a bunch of cards that have got values of 3 and 2 and 5 and 7. Right, annoying. This guy can't really move around much. So higher tactical and strategic nous ratings for the characters that are your generals will let them move more easily. But the other things you can use the cards for is what's written on the cards. And these all have very specific things they do. Like, so this one is Sicilia revolts. If your opponent has control of Sicilia, remove all non-walled political control in that province, which are not currently stacked with his own combat units. So in other words, anywhere he doesn't have a garrison has gone up in revolt. So you can play these sorts of things. You know, what do you want them? Movement or... And so these things are used for recruitment. These things are used for bringing new characters into play. Yeah, so it's a very dynamic game as it happens. Some also have different effects depending on what war it is, first, second, or third. So you maneuver around. Now, I quite like the maneuvering thing. As I said, look, very simple. So when it's your turn, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to play this one for revolt. I'm going to use this one to suddenly make these Gauls my friend, which means they give me like this many combat units. Ta-da! And right, I'm going to use these ones to move this guy here, here, and here. If you are moving, there is a rule which says if an enemy unit is within like, or an enemy stack is within reasonable distance of you, it can move one area towards you. So if someone's trying to move and sneak past you, you can in fact intercept and block it. But there is a random dice roll required to do it. You also overrun stuff. If someone has just put like a single combat unit in an area and you have, I think, 5 or more combat units, you just wipe them. There's no roll, you just kill the smeggers. So scattering little tiny combat units stops those revolts, but if an army is actively moving around the area, it makes you very vulnerable to these overruns. There's also naval movement. Places that have port markers, you can embark and you can move across seas to other port areas, but you have to roll essentially to see if naval battles and so on occur. In the first Punic War, it's touch and go. Both sides have big navies and both sides are fighting back and forth. In fact, the Carthaginians had an advantage in the first war, but the Romans eventually wore them down. By the second one, the Romans are getting supreme at sea. So anytime the Spanish get the bright idea of trying to cross into different regions by sea, they might take some pretty bad attrition. So you begin to find that they have a very separate army, for instance, running around in Africa than the ones they do in Spain and Gaul and Italy. So there are also elephants. Now, one of the combat units you can have if you're Carthaginian are elephants. These come up from time to time. If a stack takes damage, apparently the first thing you lose are your elephants. But when a battle starts, you can declare an elephant charge, and you roll a dice, and if the opposing general, the Roman general, can roll essentially his tactical skill or under, then they manage to kind of open ranks and chuff the elephants through or what have you. However, if he fails, the elephants immediately remove combat units from the Roman lineup. So they've turned them two-dimensional, they've terrified them, they've chased off the horses. So, but apart from that, the combat's quite interesting. So you have, where are we? You have these. These are the tactical cards. You can see they have names. What's this one? Flank right. It gives you some extra text on the bottom for what happens when you play it. So, and when you fight, each side randomly draws one card for each combat unit they've got in the fight, and one card for each tactical level of skill that their commanding general has. Now, where the ranks come in is that you can move generals in together, but the more senior one is the one whose tactical rank counts. Those two consuls, the Roman consuls, they changed which one was senior each day, and they actually got some things historically at this period where one guy his scouts have found Hannibal's army, and he could order an attack, but he realized if he moves in towards them now, they'll get there, but then they have to camp for the night, and tomorrow the other guy's going to be in charge, and if they win, the other guy will get all the glory, and this guy he was there. So this guy would physically move the army to a stupid position because he was moving away because he doesn't want the army to engage when he's not in charge. So it caused them real problems due to human pettiness. But the senior consul is the one whose tactics count. So if you've got like one total idiot and one genius, you've got to roll and see which one of them just happened to be in charge that day. If there's a proconsul who's brought his troops in and there's a consul, the consul always outranks him, so the consul's skill is always the one that counts for drawing cards. But what you do is, the cards have all got names. They've got probe, flank left, double envelopment, flank center, feigned retreat, all these sorts of things. So the attacker plays a card and the defender has to match it with the same sort of card. There are some wild cards in there, and there are some where you can kind of glomp 2 cards together and they count, as a wild card as anything. So there's a little tactical card game that is played, but if you cannot match the other guy's card, then the guy that's played the card that you can't match wins. And written on the bottom are some of the consequences of a win with that card. It'll give you the retreat dice and the number of combat units that are lost by the loser. You then do a little roll. Both sides, depending on how many guys are engaged, there is a little chart you look at. Depending on how many people are engaged, you roll and see what loss both sides take. So you do lose combat units when you fight. But who wins or loses is not done by rolling dice by the number of things. It's done by this little card game, which I liked. That's why I liked this game, because instead of like rolling dice like any other game, it was like ha hoo, I flank left. What? Meanwhile the cavalry is probing on the right, and then yahoo! Here comes a charge up the front. Obviously, if you've got multiples of one card, you might want to sort of really hammer those home and try and overrun him. There's 48 tactical cards, so you can do the maths of each. I think there's like 8 different maneuvers, so hey, I got 7 of these. Good. If I keep playing these, I will win. So the other important thing is political control. You can spend the points from these you can spend the points from these strategy cards. The other thing you can do is you can use those to change the political control of an area to your own. If you've got troops in an area, you basically turn it into a place that's loyal to you. Essentially, you kick out all of the current ruling class and replace them with your own guys. And when you've done this to every zone in a province, that entire province is yours. Bang! You now command that province. If you end up conquering more provinces than the other guy, that's generally a one of the main victory conditions. So lunging in and trying to disrupt the other guy's political control is as important in many ways as screwing up his armies. It's all about control, and the military troops are just a way of making that control, which is a little layer of subtlety that you don't often see in military style board games. So that's why I like this. So look, pretty simple. You've got this lovely big map of the Western Med, 2 sides, but you can actually split it up into multiple players. So we always found it quite funny if you took one console each. So you have like two guys playing Rome, which is fun because they do bicker and fail to cooperate, and that's really fun. But that also happens with the Carthaginians. So there were families like the Barkers and so on that were very prominent, but there were other ones that were vying with them. So you get like 2 families of generals too who don't really like each other that much. So look, it gives you a really good game. The card-based combat system is fun. Sure, it could come down to some sort of dice roll, but the card thing just is fun. It makes you feel like your armies are actually doing something. You won't have 100 combats in a turn because you've probably only got 2 actual army stacks that are moving. You've probably only got 2 or maybe 3 generals on a side because the Romans can only have 1 proconsul. So, most of you got is 3 stacks moving, which is more than enough for anybody. So I like this game. As a military board game, it is easy to understand. It has some interesting subtleties. The strategy cards give it a huge amount of replayability because the events come up differently each game, and these are all real ones taken from history, but give each game its fun and flavour. And there are different kind of ways of playing it. What sort of gambits are you going for? Are you going to try naval invasions and go for the guts of the other guy's heartland? Are you going to just try and steal provinces out from under him? Are you going to try and woo lots of tribes and then lead a mighty wave of guys from a direction that he wasn't guarding against? Lots of interesting ploys that you can do there. So it is an excellent little game and well worth taking a look at. A lot of game stores will have it. This is not a rare game, but I think it's often, for some reason, I think it's an overlooked one. Really good stuff. So anyway, if you really like that whole Battle of Cannae and Scipio Africanus and Hannibal kind of stuff, that's fine. Mr. Snoots is not planning on any Alps at the moment, although we are planning on going to Vietnam in a couple of months and then back to Thailand. So yay! And back to Angkor Wat. So anyway, maybe we will see you there. One night in Bangkok, people. Bangkok, Oriental City. We will hopefully see you around a games table somewhere, somewhen. Look after yourselves. Take great care of your personal safety. And that includes just your mental well-being in these often unpleasant times. And just remember, you're not alone out there. There is a whole community of your fellow gamers who really do actually give a damn about you. Okay, much love everybody, and we'll see you anon.